This session is about solar energy for agriculture income and livelihood. In South Asia has seen a major rising of adaptation of irrigation water pumps, but we have little knowledge and what kind of impacts of this solar irrigation pumps to the farmers' livelihood and their income and all those things. So mainly it is focused on the impact of solar irrigation in farmers' livelihood. So for this session, we have 5 speakers, very energetic and professional and research-oriented speakers, 2 from Bangladesh, 2 from India, and 1 from cases. So I want to, one presentation will be from Mr. Shilp Verma, senior researcher from IWMI. Is maybe here. Please raise your hand so that everyone could notice you. And another one is Sarwar Hossain from Bangladesh Agricultural Development Corporation. Maybe he's in outside. Maybe it's coming. Is Sarwar here? Okay then. And then next speaker will be Nitin Bassi from Council of Energy, Environment and Water Development Corporation. Maybe he's here. So another Mr. Sanjib Bimali from Nepal, Department of Agriculture. Yeah, it is. And last but not the least, Dr. Saidu Rahman from Bangladesh Agriculture University. He's online. He's online. Okay, thank you for your presence. And for this, we have 90 minutes time, but we are little late. And it is divided. I want to divide 90 minutes time is like nearly 12 minutes. And 1 or 2 quick question answer in between if there is necessary. Otherwise, we'll manage all those discussion at the end of the session. So without further delay, I want to call first speaker, Mr. Shilp Verma, Senior Research Scholar of IWMI, India, to present your presentation on solar energy for rural livelihood. Your time.
I changed the slides, but you can stand anyway.
Oh, okay. In the meantime, I would humbly request to finish your presentation within time, and I also request all the participants to note down your queries throughout the presentation so that we will address all those at the end of the session. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. I hope all of you can come down. Come here. Maybe we can close the door so that.
Yeah, I think we are at.
Yeah. So maybe we are seated the wrong way because I have 2 screens for me, but you have only 1. But thanks for coming. I'm going to talk about, actually this is not, I'm not presenting any research that is already completed. This is a new project that we are going to start pretty soon in partnership with GIZ India and GIZ Nepal. And we are also going to, this is an action research project where we are going to work on the ground, and our partners on the field will be CINI and AKRSP. We are focusing mostly on the Eastern Gangetic Plains, which is the eastern part of India, Eastern UP, North Bihar, West Bengal, even Assam Plains. But it's also very similar to Nepal Terai and also parts of Bangladesh. So that is one of the focus areas. The other focus area for this project is the Central Indian Tribal Heartland, which is upland area, and I will talk a little bit about the features of the geography. But in both these areas, we feel that solar pumps can play a very significant role in enhancing rural livelihoods and in making agricultural value chains more lucrative for small farmers, but also more sustainable. So that's the project that is about solar energy for rural livelihoods. Our focus is on using solar energy for enhancing rural livelihoods and for improving their resilience. I'll not spend too much time on this, but almost in all the developing part of the world, there's no dearth of sunlight, right? There's abundant sunlight available in almost the entire global south. But for several reasons, South Asia is the epicenter of solar irrigation. I think in the morning we heard one reason is that this is also the epicenter for irrigation. No other region in the world uses as much pumped energy for irrigation as this world or as this part of the world. And so therefore it's not surprising that 92.5% of the world's solar capacity installed for agriculture is right now in India. Another 2.5% is in Bangladesh. So South Asia basically accounts for more than 95% of the off-grid solar capacity for deployed for use in agriculture. Most of it is for pumping. There is a little other than pumping also. Now, we talk about several business models. In the morning we also heard about grid-connected solar. But out of the 350,000 solar pumps that are there in South Asia right now, I think 345,000 are off-grid. There's been a lot of focus on, or at least in these 2 days, we will hear a lot of focus on the impact of grid-connected solar pumps that have been tried out here in Gujarat and also in some other states. But my talk is going to focus on off-grid solar because I'm talking about a part of the region where grid penetration is very poor. So maybe eventually we would want to have grid connection, but for the moment, most of the solar being deployed in that region is all off-grid. And this is also similar to several parts of sub-Saharan Africa, where also grid penetration will take more time. So some of the learnings that we will draw from this work here may also be relevant there. Next, please. Now, I will just quickly skip over this, but there are various technical, economic and financial and also institutional models when we talk about off-grid solar. And there are also different sizes. We've seen mostly in Africa, but also in parts of Asia, in Nepal, for example. There are micro solar irrigation pumps, which are less than 1 kilowatt capacity. These are mostly mobile. There are small solar pumps, they're 2 to 3 kilowatt, sometimes up to 5 kilowatt. And then there are also medium-sized solar pumps, which are mostly community-owned and managed. But they also come with different ownership patterns. Most of them are individual, but they are also solar entrepreneurs, including some that IWMI has promoted in North Bihar under a pilot. But there are also solar enterprises which are more community-owned. So this is basically just the broad matrix of institutional and technical models that have been tried. Right? Now, as I mentioned, our aim is to look at what can be done to mainstream solar irrigation that is smallholder friendly and also create sustainable value chains. And we are going to focus in the Indo-Gangetic plains of Bihar and Nepal Tarai. This is an area which is very high in population density. So the per capita land availability is very low. It's not only low, but it's also fragmented. So the land holdings are small and fragmented. Even when a farmer has 1 hectare land, sometimes it's almost surprising to know that that 1 hectare is available in 15 parcels, which are spread all over the village. So each parcel is really stamp sized. But there is high well density. It's not that irrigation is absent in this area. There is high well density, but there is under irrigation, partly because of the high cost of diesel and also because the rural grid is poor. And so farmers don't have access to free or subsidized electricity like many farmers here in Gujarat or in Punjab and Haryana and several parts of peninsular India have. The other region we want to focus on is the Central Indian Tribal Heartland. This is basically a strip of 100 odd districts in the central part of India, which are predominantly tribal. This is an undulating geography, which has been basically deprived of irrigation. Most irrigation development has focused on the plains, but in these highlands, there's been very little irrigation development. And on almost all development parameters, when we compare tribal India to rest of India, we find that tribal India is deprived, whether it is irrigation, whether it is health, whether it is education, almost everything. But natural endowment is very good. They have higher rainfall, they have higher land holding, there is higher stream density, so there is also opportunity for lift irrigation in that region. But the grid infrastructure, access to markets, roads are very poor, and that's also the other focus of our work. Now, just to, as I mentioned, this is not work that we have completed, this is work that we are just starting. But the focus of this will be in these main activities. We are right now in the inception phase, but we plan to work in 3 regions, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Nepal Tarai. In Jharkhand, where there is right now very little solar irrigation, we have started working even before this project started in piloting some business models. And what we want to do as part of this project is do a 3-village pilot. We will take 3 villages, which will be in the same block, which will be similar in terms of geography, but it also in terms of socioeconomics. And we will try out 3 different models in these villages. We will try and saturate these villages with these 3 different models, and then we will compare the results. I will talk about what 3 models a bit later. In Bihar, there's already been a lot of work on solar irrigation, partly through IWMI, but also through other agencies who have been working on promoting solar irrigation. So we don't want to do new pilots there. But what we want to do is, can we work with other partners to create a large enough hub of solar energy, which is saturated with solar energy, and then use that as a demonstration to policymakers and say, this is how you can replicate it and scale it up. So we'll work in a cluster of 25 or 30 villages with our partners, AKRSP, and Jivika is a government partner. It's the Bihar Rural Livelihood Program. It's a World Bank funded program, which is focused on women-led growth. And they've created a lot of self-help groups, which are women-led. And we are going to try and work with these self-help groups in Bihar. We've also added, this was a bit of a late addition, but we also added to this project a component of Nepal Tarai. And I was really keen to do that because the conditions in Nepal Tarai and North Bihar are so similar. And we thought it would be useful to learn from what is happening in Nepal Tarai, what lessons we can draw from there and bring it to North Bihar, Eastern UP, Bengal, Assam, but also share what we are doing here with people who, and our partner there is going to be GIZ Nepal. They already have plans to expand solar irrigation in the Tarai region. They want to set up 300 solar irrigation schemes, and we'll be working with them closely. The other thing that we do in Nepal, in an earlier project, we worked with GIZ and the Indian Council for Agriculture Research to develop a solar irrigation pump sizing tool. This tool has now been adopted by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy to be used in Kusum, which is the Government of India's ambitious solarization program. Now we are going to adapt this tool also for the Nepal context and see how the same tool can be used in Nepal, but maybe also in other contexts. Finally, in addition to this work that we'll be doing on the ground, there will be certain support studies and activities, and we'll also do some policy consultations. But one more aspect on which we hope to work is solar life cycle management. We are installing a lot of solar pumps. There are going to be solar panels. Some of the solar panels are already 10 years old. Soon they are going to be discarded, either because the energy they generate has substantially reduced, or because newer technology has basically made it feasible to replace old inefficient panels with new ones. We right now don't have a good plan on what to do with them, and they are going to end up in landfills. And we want to avoid that situation, and we want to see what can be done to better manage the life cycle of PV panels. Next. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about the 3 village pilot that we are going to do in Jharkhand, and then I'll leave the rest of the time if there is any for questions. You can skip this slide. Yeah, so in the first village, what we're going to do, this is more of a business as usual. These are going to be small 1 kilowatt or 2 kilowatt solar systems, which is what the government is mostly promoting. I think most of the government programs as well as the civil society-led programs are basically handing over small-sized solar pumps to individual farmers for their own use. Now, there are several issues with this. One is that when we have 300,000 solar pumps installed over a continent-sized country, it's almost impossible to provide any O&M service or after-sale service because of the spread of their. It's not that the companies which are installing them are not interested in providing those services. It's just too expensive to do that. What we are going to do is we will pick one village and we'll install 30 pumps there, and we want to see whether that can improve the after-sale service and the O&M of these pumps. But each of these pumps will basically primarily serve the purpose of providing irrigation to the farmer who is owning and installing these systems. That is going to be the business as usual or the default system for our study. Next.
This is in Bihar or Jharkhand?
This is going to be in Jharkhand. In another nearby village, 2 minutes, yes. In a nearby village, we are going to do a pilot of solar energy entrepreneurs. We are going to give some enterprising farmers 3 to 5 kilowatt systems, depending on their need and the specificities of the village. And we are also going to give them a network of buried pipes. Through these buried pipes, they will basically offer solar irrigation as a service to other farmers in the village. And because there will be not just one of them, but several of them, they will be competing with each other for the market share. And therefore, we expect that this will be a buyer-friendly market. We've already piloted this model in North Bihar with a lot of success. It is being scaled up in Bihar, but it has not been done in the Jharkhand context, which is slightly different. In Bihar, there's already a tradition of diesel-based irrigation market. In Jharkhand, that doesn't exist. So it's going to be a challenge, but that's what we want to try here. Next. And in the last village, what we want to do is we want to set up a solar energy enterprise, which will be owned and operated by a community group. This enterprise will not only provide energy for irrigation purposes, it will sell energy, it will not sell water. It will sell energy for irrigation purposes, but it will also sell energy for domestic use if somebody wants it, or for commercial uses if somebody wants it. If somebody wants to set up a cold storage and wants energy, or a floor mill or any other purpose, basically this will be a energy generation unit which will be owned and operated by a community. So these are the 3 models that we want to try, and we want to learn from these models and see what would work best in what conditions and how to scale it up. So I'm going to stop here and open for questions.
Maybe 1 or 2 very quick questions. At last, we'll address all the queries you have. Just noted it down. So
sure.
This one.
Yeah. I have 2 quick questions. The first, you talked about service, pumping a service. And how are you going to factor in the water cost, and who's going to cover those? Because I believe it is going to be underground water, right?
Well, it can be groundwater. It can also be surface water, because Jharkhand is a context where there's lots of streams and there are also village water bodies.
Is this private water, so to say, or public water, and how is the cost mechanism? Have you already through that?
So I can tell you what we've done in Bihar. In Bihar, it's all groundwater based, right? But there was already a market for using this. There was an irrigation service market which used diesel pumps. Now there, the cost of irrigation for the water buyer was about 150 rupees per hour. Now, when they're doing it with solar pumps, they're offering it at 80 to 90 rupees per hour. So there is a reduction for the farmers. Now, in the Jharkhand context, such a market doesn't exist. So it's greenfield. We don't know how well it will work, how it will work. So those things we still have to figure out.
Second quick question. Talk about the village level microgrid model as an enterprise. Greenpeace India, I believe, a few years back did a similar experiment in are there other existing models?
So there are a lot of microgrids that have been tried, and actually we are currently in another session. You will hear about a study that we are right now doing to look at the different models. Now, most microgrids start with the base load of domestic users, and then irrigation is an additional load. Here we are not talking about covering because thanks to the government's priority, the main grid is already there. For domestic users, the grid penetration has improved significantly. We are not going to target that. We are basically going to use this energy or this microgrid for commercial uses or productive uses, not for domestic uses. So that's, but of course, there is a lot that we can learn from the existing experiments, and we are already.
I think maybe at last we'll address another one.
There's a question online. Yeah, there's a question in the chat box.
How are you planning to do solar life cycle management? Did you?
That was my question. So.
Okay.
Did you mean
So the conventional approach to managing life cycle is recycle, right? But recycling is expensive. When you recycle, then you end up only recovering 10% of.
Have you come for lunch?
Now we believe that such a model is not going to work in the Indian or the South Asian context because of the cost, and also because we have very poor enforcement capacity. So we can have a law which will say, okay, everyone must recycle, but actually end up, all these panels will end up in landfills. So what we want to do is we want to try out repurposing, right? So even at the end of 20 years, these panels don't stop generating energy, but the energy that they generate reduces. Right? And with newer, more lighter, efficient panels coming, maybe farmers want to replace them, but they can still use those panels for, say, low-cost building material or tables or something. So we want to explore that part, which I think that very few people have worked on. And because we feel that is a more practical approach to life cycle management in the South Asian context.
Okay, we'll address other remaining. Thank you, Shilp, for your very informative presentation, and I have noted some points. With I'm allowed at last, I've addressed that. Now, as a second speaker, I would like to call Mr. Sarwar Hossain, Superintending Engineering, Bangladesh Agricultural Development Corporation, to present your presentation on the role of solar irrigation for agricultural development in Bangladesh. Your time. I request to finish within your time.
It's 7 minutes for now, because apologies, we have to cut short your time because we're already a little bit behind.
So yes,
maximum
maximum 10 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, good noon. I am from Bangladesh. My name is Mohammad Sarwar Hossain, Project Director, Minor Irrigation Development Project by Solar Irrigation. I want to say something about the development of SIP in Bangladesh. Is
The first slide.
Yeah.
The next
Next one. In this slide, you saw that 2020 to 2021, there are 12.17 lakh diesel operated shallow tubewell, diesel operated LLP are there, and 32.2 lakh hectare land which are easily converted to SIP. So there are a great scope in Bangladesh to convert the diesel operated pump to SIP. Then another is seasonal crisis of fuel availability, frequently maintenance of diesel pump, and solar irrigation pump can reduce this cost irrigation, protect the environment, and reduce diesel fuel imports. Next slide. You know that Bangladesh and India also have the potentiality of solar. And in Bangladesh, the average solar irradiance ranges from 215 to 235, and it's greater in the northern region. Next. There's a slide, and in the whole country, you know, there are in the south. In the south, there are higher potential in solar irradiance in the hill tracts. These are in Bangladesh hill tracts land, and there are so much solar irradiance, but its problem is the hilly area. So we introduced the SIP in this region for the cultivation of hilly area. Next slide. This slide. Next. The average solar irradiance is between the March to September is higher, and in Bangladesh we are depend on irrigation in the Rabi season. That's in the January to April or May, and then the rainy season is start. So this is a very good situation for SIP in Bangladesh. Next. You know that 1 liter diesel produces 2.7 kilowatt carbon dioxide, and each year 13 lakh diesel in Bangladesh produce 9,100 kiloton carbon dioxide. So solar, in the other sense, solar pump emits zero emission. Next. Now in Bangladesh, the installed general capacity is 22,000 megawatt, but the production is highest is 15,000 megawatt. So the capacity of renewable energy in Bangladesh at that time is 1,000 megawatt. So maximum power demand gap in peak irrigation season is 1,500 megawatt. Next. And in this subcontinent, diesel prices is higher. In 2005, it is 32 taka per liter, and now it's 109 taka per liter in diesel in Bangladesh. Next. Per month sunshine hours at the capital in Dhaka, and it's the average is 6 hours. So it's a good for our cultivation. Next. We have hydro or gas or wind, but the solar capacity is very much effective in Bangladesh because the diesel operated pump we generate is 28 to 29 taka per kilowatt peak. So we can change our diesel operated pump to SIP, and we can less our subsidy in diesel. Then next. We have the target renewable energy policy 2008. Bangladesh has a national target of increasing the share of renewable energy is 10%. But we don't achieve in 2020, but we hope we will achieve in 2030 of our total renewable energy by 20% of total energy consumption. Next. We have in our National Agricultural Policy 2018, we have the government has emphasis to strengthen research activities to increase utilization of renewable energy in irrigation, and encourages use of renewable energy, including solar energy, encourages the production import of solar panels for the use of irrigation, and provide credit and other incentives, and ensure use of solar energy for other purposes during the periods when the energy is not used for irrigation. Next. There is a share of renewable energy in Bangladesh, solar 676 megawatt, and the total is 1,910 megawatt. Next. You saw in this slide, there is a green zone. It's a shallow zone where we can lift the water easily, and the depth of static water level is high. So in this region, we can use the small type of solar pump using the centrifugal pump. So we can use the centrifugal pump in this area. So the solar pump installation cost is low. So we want to install a small solar pump to the farmers in this area. Next. And groundwater is, you know that we have 12,000 pumps and 33,000 deep tubes. So in the northern region and in the east part of the region and the middle of the region of Bangladesh, we use the deep tube because the static water level is very poor. It is very high. So it's not possible to use the small type of solar irrigation. In this situation, we use the rivers. There are many rivers in Bangladesh, so we use the surface water in that region to use the pump in the field. And we want to use the deep table to convert it to SIB. So we can easily use the solar panel in the electricity use. Next. 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 You know that we use the panel in the field area, but the field area is limited in Bangladesh. There is a small country, so you use the solar panel in the canal, in the scatter, in the front of higher level, because we have a flood area. So we use higher structure, so can provide and provide the underground area for cultivation, and it's also unaffected from the flood. So in this type of panels we are used in Bangladesh. Next. We have some sandy area. So in that area we use the movable type of panel there, and in this sandy area in the rainy season there are floods, so this panel may be destroyed. So we can lift it from the sandy area, and we can use in the boat. So in the Haur area there are plenty of river, plenty of water. So in this type of mechanism we use in Bangladesh. Next. 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 In this chart, there are many organizations in Bangladesh. Bangladesh Agricultural Development Corporation is one of them, and the use of solar pump is higher in 2012. It is an increasing mode, and we think so. It is used day by day. Next. In this graph, there are 9 organizations in Bangladesh. Most of the government organization here. So there are total 3,414 solar pumps there, and power generated is 56.69 megawatt. Next. Yeah. And in this chart, area covered by the solar irrigation is 4.34%, and when we target with the shallow water, shallow tubewell, so it may be up to the 60% of the total coverage of the area. This is our target. Next. 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 We provide the solar pump to the farmers in a group form. There are one person who is president, and another is secretary, one is cashier, one is pump operator, and 6 members there. Next. We take some participation fee for the pumps. For 1.5 cubic, we usually we take 23,000 taka, and for 1 cubic 30,000 taka. And per yearly, in some cases on different organization, in the case of BADC, we yearly rent the SIP to farmers. But another an organization in BMDA, they provide the pumps by hour. And we want to introduce the solar pump participation, solar pump rent by the use of flow meter. It is already used, so it will be convenient for our officers. Thank you. And we use the multi-purpose use of the solar panel. You know that the irrigation season is 4 to 6 months, but in Bangladesh, in the southern and eastern side, there all the year the SIP are going on. But some cases it is used for the 4 to 6 months. Then we use the threshing or husking purposes, and we want to use in the another purposes. By you already say knows that the grid integration, but the pump is smaller and it is scattered from the grid area. So it's not possible to introduce all the pumps to grid. Next. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we'll move for our speaker. Thank you, sir, for your complete presentation. That answering how solar irrigation has impacted in agricultural development in Bangladesh. As a third speaker, I'd like to call Mr. Nitin Bassi, Natural Resource Management Specialist of Council of Energy, Environment and Water, India, to present your presentation on scenarios for the deployment of solar for groundwater irrigation in India.
Thank you.
Yes.
How much time I have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. Thank you.
Plus 1 or 2 minutes more to finalize.
Right. Thank you. I think we are now at a stage where we can take 1 hour for the same presentation and also finish it in 5 minutes if needed. So it is always good to ask how much time do I have to make it. Anyways, I'm Nitin Bassi. I am leading the Sustainable Water Program at Council on Energy, Environment and Water. As you can see from this slide, we are impacting sustainable development at scale. We have an active presence in close to 22 Indian states. We have 3 major verticals, and sustainable water, which I am leading, falls in the quality of life. Next slide, please. Now these are some of the numbers which might be known to colleagues from India, but then considering that we have international audience, so I just thought of putting these numbers up front. So in India, if we look at the total solar potential, it is about 750 gigawatt peak. Most of it, if you look at the map, it is concentrated towards western in the northwestern side. And the amount of, the peak sunlight hours, the maximum that we have ranges from 4 to 6 hours. So this is the window which we are trying to capture, through promoting solar irrigation in India. Now, why agriculture? Why we see that agriculture is a major potential for promoting this? If we look at the overall, groundwater abstraction in the world, so India is the largest. India does largest extraction of groundwater. It is close to 250 billion cubic meters per annum, and which is close to about 27% of the total global groundwater extraction. Similarly, if we look at the electricity use for irrigation alone in India, I mean, I was not aware it is about 21%. I always thought that this number might be a little lower, but as per the later estimate, what we see is it is about 21%. And most of it is for abstracting groundwater. So 87% of the groundwater use is for, for irrigation, whatever is abstracted. Now, what we also see that if we look at the bottom graph, so if we look at the energy mix from where India is producing its electricity, so you will find a large proportion of it continues to come from the thermal power plants, which will continue maybe up to 2050, and from there onwards, we'll be moving towards phasing down because the share of renewables will go up. But what we see is that solar is still only about 63 gigawatt. So we have potential about 750. What is being achieved is about around 63 gigawatt. Going forward, what we also see is that, I mean, if we recall one of the presentations, I think by WRI in the inaugural session, so you would have seen that now there is a lot of focus on these decentralized promotion of solar uptake, especially in agro processing and the in the decentralized agri businesses where the solar is being promoted as an energy or electricity option. So there also there is a lot of potential that this can be promoted. And what exactly is, I mean, why again? This is again a question of why that we want to promote solar. So if we look at the situation in India, so in a lot of the states, the electricity supplied either free of cost or a very highly subsidized rate. So what happens is that there is a groundwater over extraction, especially in the alluvial zones in towards the western side. And if you can recall the first map, most of your solar potential is also on the western side. So these are the areas which are already, facing this issue of groundwater over abstraction. And the other thing is, because of this free supply of electricity, the discoms or the electricity distribution companies, they're already incurring losses. So how it is structured in India is that discoms supply this subsidized cost, which is reimbursed by the government. In an ideal case, this should come in advance, but it doesn't happen like that. It comes after the agriculture season is over, and many a times it takes a lot of time, or it never comes. So that is the reason that you see that discoms, they keep on accumulating these losses, which were about USD 5 billion per year as per some estimates. Now, to address all this, so we came up with a very, kind of a innovative scheme, which is called as PM Kusum. Again, for the interest of our international audience. So this is a scheme specifically to solarize agriculture sector. And it has, various objectives. Of course, energy and water security is one, enhancing farmer income is another, decarbonizing the farm sector. Of course, we are moving towards solar. And of course, reduce the agriculture subsidy burden and also the losses which discoms are incurring. I mean, we have seen in the previous slide. It has three components, component A, B, C. A is about installation of small scale power plant up to 2 megawatt capacity. Shilp mentioned, working with such model in 3 different geographies. Then there is a component B, which is purely to replace the existing diesel pumps. And as per the estimate, there are, maybe about 2 million such pumps, and they will be replaced. And then there is a component C, which again has 2 models. One is that you solarize the existing grid connected pumps, and the other is that you solarize the feeder itself. That, there is a feeder and you just solarize the feeder. So whatever pumps which are connected through the feeder, they will automatically get the renewable power to run for their working. But as you look at the last column, the progress is really, really slow. And, there are several, reasons for it. Each geography, each, kind of a district or a block will have its own reason why it is not actually, working there. And this is where more evidences are also needed. And this is where, we need to generate more evidences and the pilots, what Shilp mentioned. And I think in also during the inaugural, I mean, there was some specific case studies. I think this is where we need to build the evidences to see why it is not working. At CEEW, we built a tool called a solar pump tool. It is built by us with the financial support from GIC. It is basically a decision support tool, which will tell you in which geography a particular scheme or a component can work. We use district-wise data in India for close to 600 districts. There are about 20 different parameters that we use, to take this decision. And the weights which are being assigned to each of these parameters are based on Delphi technique. So which basically means that you can use the tool, have a stakeholder consultation and decide, what weightage you would like to give to these 20 parameters. I mean, this exercise was done by us. So on the basis of results, we assign the weights, but the tool provides you an option. If you want to use it, it is in the public domain. If you want to use it, you can assign different weights and see, how it can work. I mean, right now it is only at the India level. I will just provide some of the example. So suppose if you want to know which are those districts which are suitable for component A, which is this decentralized small where farmers are become entrepreneurs. I mean, they're installing their own let's say solar power plant for supply. And C here is the solarization of feeder itself. And the three main, indicator or parameter that we took was, or the cost of power supply, we gave a weightage of around 50%. And that is why you see that a lot of area in the Northeast emerges as a suitable option, because, the cost of power supply there is huge. And that is why, you can find that they are occurring in the, higher percentile of where ANC can be promoted. So similarly, there are high density of electric pumps, high level of feeder segregation. So that is why you see areas like, Andhra and also some parts in Karnataka where the feeder separation has been undertaken at a large scale, and also the cost of electricity supply is very high. Gujarat is also one state where the feeder segregation has happened, but it doesn't figure it here because of the low cost of power supply that in comparison to other states. And here we have given 50% weightage to it. So, you can tweak these weightages and see, how the results vary. Next, please. So similar kind of a thing for component B. Here you will find most of the diesel pumps are here in the Gangetic belt, in the Gangetic basin. And this map also shows that if we give, let's say, equal weightage to all these 5 parameters, where we are talking about the proportion of cultivators, having diesel pumps, better availability of groundwater. So this is also one of the main indicator that we are taking, that the groundwater should be available. I mean, it should not be overexploited as we see in the western part of India. High crop revenue. What is the availability alone? So likewise, you can see which belt emerges. Next slide, please. And finally, we have done the same for the component C. Again, there are certain parameters, different weightages, and you see different results. Yes, this is the last slide. So what is the way forward? I mean, as I said, we need to, first of all, take help of such decision support tool. Of course, I'm not saying that this is a tool, which doesn't need to be tweaked. You can tweak it, you can add more parameters. I mean, of course, in this model, you can't do it because we have fixed it, but you can actually change the weightages and see, how different area emerges. Having said that, what we need to, where we need to build evidence, we need to build evidence, especially where there are groundwater markets. So what happens is that, especially in the grid connected areas, so if there is a groundwater market, if the farmer is selling a water, and suppose we say that, okay, solar irrigation pump is given and the net metering is also given, so he earns a feed-in tariff, but will he be interested in doing that if he is earning more than selling that water? So this is where we need to generate evidences. Similarly, the economic viability. So we did one study where we found that it is a win-win situation. Whether we talk about government, we talk about discoms, we talk about farmer, but this is all theoretical. This is all theoretical. This assumes that farmer is ready to pay the upfront cost and all. But this is all theoretical, and this is where also we need to see what kind of economic models can be available, what kind of financial can be given to the farmers, so that such uptake can happen. And in the off-grid area, the barriers are many. I mean, we qualify them under governance, social, financial, and administration. I can discuss with you on these parameters at length. Here I stop, and thank you so much, and I hope I didn't reach the 10 minutes deadline. Thank you so much.
So that time, and very impressive presentation and very scientific research and critical analysis. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, time is already over, or it's also running. So
How many SAP are in Bangladesh, in India, you introduced by government or private sector?
So as I was referring in terms of PM Kusum scheme. So here what we see is the progress is about 10 to 15%. If you just take the total, there is a slide. I mean,
3 lakhs.
3 lakhs. Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
You have one more question online. So it says, when you mention the polarization of agriculture, it's not visible on this.
Yeah. Okay. Please.
When you mention polarization of agriculture, do you mean solar energy use in all cases of agriculture, crop, livestock?
Yeah, so this is where, I mean, here in this presentation, my focus was only on the solarization for groundwater irrigation. But as I mentioned in one of the slides, going forward, solar is going to play big role, especially in the agri processing. And there, the livestock, dairy, and other, secondary processing sectors would also emerge.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
Yes. Now the next speaker is, I would like to call Mr. Sanjib Bimali, agricultural engineer who loves to be with farmers, and to present his research on solar irrigation, cost reducing technology in agriculture, case study of Nepal. Please, your time start.
You can use that to change the slides.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm Sanjib Bimali from Nepal. I'm representing Department of Agriculture of Nepal. I'll be presenting about solar irrigation, cost reducing technology in agriculture, a case study of Nepal. Okay.
Can you give this slide? It's not working. Next. Okay, I'll just-
Okay, we are from the different countries. So for first, my presentation, I will talk about my country. And due to the time limitation, I won't talk about more things. But Nepal is known as the country of the Mount Everest, and the rest of the part about population, total area, you can Google it. I just want to focus about it's the country of Mount Everest. Next, please. The next part is the climatic condition of Nepal. It's about subtropical countries and average rainfall of 1513 mm, which lasts for 102 days from June to September. This shows that the rain is concentrated only in the 3 months. At the same time, and another shows that the total cultivated area of Nepal is around 22.3 million hectares, and out of which only 1800 million hectares are irrigable areas, and despite of that, less than 15 million hectares are only irrigated, and out of which 68% is by surface irrigation and 32% is from groundwater irrigation. This shows that there is a potential of groundwater irrigation, and the groundwater irrigation is all of the presenters present that it is supported with the diesel pumping, and that could be replaced by solar. And the last map shows that the solar potential of Nepal is around 4.4 kilowatt per MQ per day, which shows that we have a good potential of solar energy in Nepal. Next, please. I want to talk about solar irrigation in Nepal a bit, introducing about my cases. The government of Nepal through MOLD had initiated subsidies on solar irrigation from 2016 and 17, up to 85% subsidy on solar irrigation projects from zero and alternate irrigation program. And luckily, I'm one of the implementing members of that program. And this program especially target in those areas where there are no surface irrigation schemes. And currently, the federal ministries through the project of Prime Minister Agriculture Modernization and provincial ministries through Agriculture Development Directorates are providing subsidies on solar irrigation, and the subsidies amount last up to 85% of the total cost. Besides that, alternative irrigation promotion center is providing subsidy on irrigation from 2016 to 17. Large portion of the SIP project is subsidized by AEPC, and the subsidy amount is 60% of the total cost, or $20,000, whichever is less is subsidized by AEPC. And currently around 2,700 SIP projects are operating in Nepal, out of which 2,500 projects are subsidized from AEPC, and rest are from MOLD and other organizations. And besides that, Department of Water Resources and Irrigation is also developing a solar irrigation project at government level in Nepal. So with this, I want to start with my cases. I have done cases in hill areas where altitude is 650 meters from sea level. The farmers grow orchard over there, and it's a subsidy program from the federal government. Source of water is surface water. and the type of the pump was submersible pump, and it replaced the electric pump over there. Next, please. The detail about it, the vertical height was around 75 meters, and the discharge per day was 1000 LPD. The pump used was 1 horsepower, and it leads from the Rupa lakes. A dog well made at the edge of the lakes, and the water is lifted from there to the lands upstream to the lake. The total areas of the farm was 0.58 hectares, and the farmers plant almost lemon and avocados over there. The total cost of installation was $916 at 85% of the subsidies, and the subsidy was provided from federal government, PMMP, PIU, MOLDs. What we see in that case is the irrigation cost over there was previous to the pump installation, the farmers used to take an irrigation of 0.5 to 0.7 hours per day, renting from the neighborhood electric pump. But now he has his irrigation use has changed to 1 to 1.25 hours per day. And at the previous time, the irrigation rental charge was 50 rupees per hour, which contribute to almost about 11,250 rupees annually, which has been saved after the use of solar pump over there. Besides that, he also generates around 10,000 rupees as a rental income. Over there, the rental charge was 50 rupees per hour. And he also mentioned that there is also opportunity for extra income if there was pipe network over there. Next one. I have collected some of the farmers' views related to the solar pumps. The farmers say that he used to be treated like the pump owner is doing favor on it. Even he was paying money for the water use. That symbolized that after the installation of the solar pump, the farmers have a self-respect and pride feeling. At the same time, I can use the water at any time, whenever I need. No need to work off it whole night. Reliability. After installing the solar pump, you can use the water at any time. And the last one, my wife used to go for water collection. Now we can work on the farm. It's a time saving and extra income generating opportunity from there. And these two slides represent the farmer's perspective. And next one, please. And with this, that is true what the farmer says, is saving almost that type of money after using that hours of the pump. For case one, the pump operation hour is around 660 hours throughout the year. And when we calculate the operating cost of the pump, it goes around 40 rupees and 45 paise per hour. And when we goes that year cost, the annual cost saving by farmers is just around $16 per year, and per acre is about $28, and calculating his extra income is just $15. So when the farmers talk about their income, they don't know about this type of operation costs. So we need to focus on that, whether installing the SIB is really beneficial to them or not. Next, please. Almost I want to go with the next case studies. Is from different part. I mean, it's from the Tarai of the Nepal, where the farmers grow cereals and nurseries. It is the subsidy provided by the provincial government. The source of water is groundwater, and this time the solar pump replaced the diesel pump. In these cases, the farm was around 3.8 hectares. Fragmented into the different uses like nurseries, cereals farms, sugarcane farms, and vegetables. In this time, the farmers just replaced his diesel pumps by the solar pump. Thus, his cost of contribution for the project is around $655. Next, please. In these times, the farmers use the hours of pump operation rise from 464 hours to 490 hours. The extra use is due to the plantation of extra crop in the availability of the more water. At the previous time, he was operating pumps with around 134 rupees cost per hour, and he has saved around 62,310 rupees is for him, and he is generating around 10,000 rupees extra income renting the pumps 100 rupees per hours, and there is no more times because of his labor shortage and some competitor over there. He has no opportunity for the extra income. This is what the farmers saying. Next, please. And in that area, the farmers is saying, I was worried about diesel price act and its availabilities. In Nepal, the price of the diesel was really high. Due to that, the cost of irrigation is high, and at the same time, the availability of the diesel is not assured. So farmers feel more assured after the installation of solar pump. At the same time, I can focus on. I used to focus on reducing the irrigation water. Now I can use water is for the crop needs. At the previous time, when the pump was not installed, his main target is just to reduce the irrigation water in whatever the ways he can find. But
1 or 2 minutes.
okay, I'll finish. And at these times, he had excess water without any cost, so he can use the more water for more crop. And at the same time, I used to leave my land uncultivated. Now I can harvest the maize. It simply means that more production and more income. Next, please. Similarly, the hidden cost behind operating those farms shows that he has a actual income of around $364, and extra income is just $48, and the net saving per hectare is around $408. Thank you. Next slide. And the lesson learned from this case study, I think this is the important one. Solar irrigation is not only the cost reducing, it is not only the cost reducing, it is also an extra generating technology. The solar pump in both the cases are operated only the 25% of their potential operation hours. One has only operating 660 hours per year, and another 490 hours. Those is operating around 20% of their total potential hours. The third one is irrigation demand and area of the production increase with the water availabilities, and solar irrigation is assured and the reliable irrigation. These are the lessons learned from the test. Next, please. And finally, the way forward. We need to introduce the solar irrigation at community level for increasing the operation hour, or there might be some other opportunity like connecting to the grid or whatever, but at that time, the cost investment for the pump will not be recovered. So it's better to increase the pump operation hour, either exploring the water market or introducing the pump at the community level. And we need to explore about the water market for extra income also, and introduce and aware the efficient irrigation application method over there. In both of the cases, I found that the water application is furrow irrigation or flooded irrigation. So with this cost, we need to find the better or energy efficient irrigation application method too. And the last one is we need to focus on groundwater we need to regulate groundwater development and use. As part of Nepal, Water Resource Act has provided the leverage to use the irrigation water on their farm without any licensing. I don't know about the global scenario, but we need to focus to regulate the groundwater development and use for the SIP for the sustainable and future water use. And that's what I'm presenting. Hopefully I was done on the time and doesn't bother you. Thank you, ma'am.
One or two questions, please.
Very quick question. At last, we will address all. Most probably. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev, sir, for your effective presentation with comparative study as well. And at last but not the least, I'd like to call Dr. Saidul Rahman, Professor of Bangladesh Agricultural University, to present your presentation on Upajilla permits in Bangladesh, effective regulation or constraint for smallholder farmers wanting to invest in solar irrigation.
Dr. Saidul
Yeah.
Rahman.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me floor to present our small study in Bangladesh. Actually, it is Upazila permits in Bangladesh, effective regulation or a constraint for smallholder farmers wanting to invest in solar irrigation or not. Honorable Session Chair, other participant, we already heard from Dr. Verma, Sarwar Hossain, Nitin, and Sanjib. Their presentation was actually based on, I should say, a big data set, but my one is very, very small, I should say. Next, please. So in Bangladesh, we use recently Upazila permits, though it is started long before. It has a long history, but a couple of years back, we reintroduced that one. We already know everyone a license is required to extract water from rivers or aquifer on commercial purpose. This is actually, in our case, Upazila permits. Next, please. How did Upazila permits appeared in 2018 and 19? It appeared again. It was, I already mentioned, in our case long before. And government actually vision is to manage groundwater, which is very scarce in our case, and also sustainable use of groundwater. That's the purpose of having Upazila permits. Next, please. And we have a small project funded by International Water Management Institute. Actually, we are supposed to answer two questions, understanding the genesis of Upazila permits, as well as understanding how the nature of informal water markets differ based on mode of energy, whether it is diesel, electric pump, or solar pump. So that were the two questions to address in that small funding. Why Upazila permits and groundwater markets important in Bangladesh case? You from Bangladesh as well as India and Nepal, you showed all the things. But in our case, you can see from the first graph that the surface water irrigation is almost static in our country. But the groundwater irrigation was increasing and still little bit increasing a bit slower way. But if you see in the next figure, you can see in the I think 1987, 85, 87, 88, we started, we banned this Upazila permits and licensing system. After that, the groundwater irrigation was increasing tremendously. But in 2018 and 19, when we reintroduced that, it again declining. That's the issue we need to check very carefully, whether we should have these Upazila permits or not. Where is the implication? We want to see that actually. Next. Groundwater permits, why was the Upazila groundwater permits reintroduced? I already mentioned it, and what were the policy? And the main reason for introducing it again is to regulate the groundwater nicely. And also the use of groundwater for producing high value crops in Bangladesh. That was the motive from the government. Next, please. And how are these permits being implemented at Upazila level? it's a long story if I say it very shortly, because it is not the issue here. Issue I will explain a bit later. It seems Upazila authority is very reluctant to use Upazila permit in the case of diesel operated machines, but they are imposing it for electricity operated machines as well as solar operated machine. That's the things we need to think very carefully, whether we should apply these Upazila permits in all cases or some cases only for electric operated machine or not. So there is a committee who is headed by Upazila Nirvahi officer, and BADC officer is actually playing role as member secretary of that committee, and they are doing field visit before having the permit. Some I think regulatory format is there. Next, please. So I will not explain these sort of things because it is a committee at the Upazila level. You can see many members are there. They decide whether a farmer will get permit or not. Next, please. And they have actually TUR, what do they do and function. And I should say some application fee is there from the farmer. Some of the things are mentioned there. The money is not a big factor there, but there is something farmers has to pay. They have mentioned in the laws. Next. And we can see deep tube oil, how many acres we can cultivate under a deep tube oil or shallow tube oil is based on the QSEC, something like that. And if finally a farmer get licensing approval, he or she has to pay for 3,000 Bangladeshi taka for deep tube oil installation, and for shallow tube oil it is 1,000 taka. These are the provision they mention in the regulation. Next, please. So I already mentioned a small grant were there to study in 6 villages in Bangladesh, so that we can address diesel operated machine, electricity operated machine, as well as solar operated machine. We selected 7 Upazila, and from every Upazila, we took 2 villages. I can show it in the next figure, please. And here you can see a table. This is taken from minor irrigation survey report. Engineer Sarwar Hossain can recognize it very easily, because almost every year we are doing minor irrigation survey. From there we can see in Tangail, Dinaspur, Satkira, Mymensingh, this is actually the district of Bangladesh, Kumilla, Khulna and Borguna. There they mention the highest number of diesel operated, electricity operated and solar operated machine. Based on that, we selected 7 spot for collecting very small data. Next, please. So you can see the distribution of 7 villages in Bangladesh. Next. So we tried to cover almost the whole area, but our data set is very small because we could not cover all the area together. If we see some response from the pump owner and user, particularly I would focus on the licensing system, whether it is burden or not. In fact, our farmers is giving very good response in favor of this Upazila permits. They don't think it is a big issue, and they said Upazila permits somehow better. 52% farmer are responding that it is not a big burden for them. If they follow the instruction from the officer of the agriculture, it would be okay. Even from the owners, we are giving the higher response as if it is not a burden for them. But there are some different perception also, I will mention later. Next, please. And if we just like to mention within a short time to you list of constraint perceived by the water user, we can see some of the things is not very good for the farmers, particularly sometimes government official who are involved there may ask for illegal money to give the water permit. It is the perception from the farmers. And you see complex and lengthy time-consuming procedure that we always face in the government office. Licensed pumper will be enlisted by the government, and they thought some extra tax may be imposed for that. These are that way they are thinking. Irrigation pump cannot be operated as per willingness and necessity for the pump owners and water user. They are somehow guided by other people, something like that. And sometimes government personnel, they make harassment for having this license. This is their perception. Next, please. And some other issue are approval of legal authorities needed to save security of pump operation and irrigation field area. There are some rules to maintain the distance as well the area of coverage. And based on the license, government may demand for cost return report every year for having some sort of subsidy from the government. That is their worry. Government may easily make list of water users under license, and they can also provide subsidy based on that. And some cases, it might have some disadvantages for that. That is their thinking. And when they apply for this license, they thought a lot of lobbying are needed to get that. And it's some sort of controlling of the government to the farmers level. And when they apply, they face a lot of delay procedure due to have this licensing. So these are the issue. Farmers think that some burden would be there if it applied everywhere in our case, Upazila permits. And next, please. And from the pump owner point of view, the things are almost similar. I am not going to mention it. Next, please. Even having this perception, but if we talk with the Upazila agriculture officer or BADC officer or water owner and user, they have some feelings in favor of licensing system as well. License is legal work and right. And so if someone have that right, he would be very good position, I think. Government law and order should be followed by pump owners. As if legal right, they thought if there is licensing system, easily be collected from the local Upazila Parishad, some thought like that, and government decision will bring welfare from pump owner. In many cases, their motivation on that for having this licensing system. Approval of legal authority is needed to save security of pump operation, something like that. License will increase social status. Some cases they thought like that, though they mention a lot of negative issues, but there have some positive issue as well. Gain more profit through this proper management of irrigation, field and water, because in Bangladesh, everybody can set up a deep tube well or shallow tube well where needed. But nowadays, government imposed this Upazila permit. So it is coming under a regulation. Next, please.
Dr. Sadar, you'll have to wrap up in the next 2 minutes.
Yes, I will. Yeah, pump owner can achieve legal right for the pump operation and irrigation field. Government will earn more revenue because they are getting very small amount of fee or something like that. Fear will not be felt in mind that we are using pump and getting water, somebody will come and charge, something like that. A smooth operation of pump can be happen, solve any problem legally if there is, and government can easily support to the pump owners. Nowadays, the government is thinking to support because diesel price is up. So how should give this subsidy to the farmers? If there is a list, government can do it easily. over-extraction of groundwater can be controlled, and enlisted pump owner can get many facilities. And finally, systematic control of the government can be done there. Next, please. So this is the scenario, but at the end, I will say we visit a very successful case of solar pump. It is not, though minor irrigation sensor mention all the solar pump established in the Borgona area, but there are some in the north part of Bangladesh, and we visited one, and we have seen that has been established with the Ghazi group with the support of ITCOL, and actually it is running very well, and four solar panel setup integrated together, and there is a net metering system as well. So farmers, as already Sarwar Hossain mentioned, that there is a group of committee. A committee is run to this solar system irrigation. So they are doing very efficiently in that area, and they are giving some electricity to the grid through net metering system. Next, please. So from that viewpoint, it is very good, but I would say what we have seen from the farmers and also the Upazila officers, it is a mixed feelings, but if it is not imposed for all diesel operated machine as well as electricity operated machines and solar panel, it is very difficult to apply there. But if it is applicable, this Upazila permit for all irrigation tools, then it would be good for expanding the solar irrigation in Bangladesh. Next, please. So these are some photographs only. Next, please, for collecting data and conducting FGD. Next, please. And the final slide is here. If you click next. So I would say a summary report with these relevant issues of Upazila permit will be submitted soon, where we will mention all the negative and positive things of these Upazila permits and how it can be helpful for expanding solar panel in Bangladesh. That we could not yet do. So that's the something from our study. Thanks for your patient hearing. If you have any question and query, I can try to answer. Thank you very much.
Floor is open for Dr. first, then we'll collect other questions for other speakers.
Do you have any questions for Dr. Sanjib?
I have a question.
Please start your introduction.
Okay, so I'm Manju. I work with IWMI Nepal as the social scientist, and I have a question which is for every speaker actually, because
Is it muted?
Getting me. Okay. Please continue.
And so, yeah, so
You can go on.
yeah, but there is a recording. So we hear about the advantages.
Switch off the speaker, the computer speaker. Yeah.
We hear about the advantages and the disadvantages, perhaps, of the costs, the negative sides of solar irrigation. But I didn't hear any detail about what kind of farmers we're talking about. Are they big farmers, having a lot of land? Are they educated farmers? Do they have access to off-farm income? So we've been talking about farmers as if everyone is the same and everyone benefits or everyone loses out. So and there was no mention about women farmer or women-headed households. So the usual issue about the socioeconomic differences between farmers and the gender differences between farmers. So if anyone wants to say anything about that, but I could.
Maybe just.
Dr. Sadhu, you can hear the room, right? Can you hear us?
Well, you've turned down his
You have to
volume,
be
so
loud.
you
This is
have
the
to
mic.
ask him to type if he can.
No, this is the mic. It should pick you up. Just speak. This is the mic and the speaker.
No, he can hear us then.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Okay, would any of the speakers like to respond to?
Okay, I will answer from my side. And for my case study, what we have done in Nepal, but there were only two case study was done. One is for farmers which have average rain holding smaller than the national average rain holding, that is 0.6 hectare national average land holding of Nepal. One of the farmers is considered who have a less land than that is 0.5 hectare in hillside, and another was considered for 3.58 hectares. In both of the cases, the farmers feel that implementing the solar project, they had observed the cost is reduction in agricultural productivity, whereas in both the cases they were as generating extra income.
What about female farmers? Did you have any?
But one of the farmers mentioned that after the installation of the solar pump, especially in the hill of Nepal, that there is a reduction of women drudgeries who used to go for collecting the waters. Now she can work on farm.
She's working more on farms. And she used to work on now she's working.
No, but at the same time, she used to work and collect the water, but now she doesn't need to go to collect water.
Yeah, but what Itaji is saying is that the time that she's saving collecting water, she's working on the farm. So women's time has not shortened. That's the point that Ita is making. She spends less time on water, but she spends more time on agriculture.
So
Which
he's
may be
essentially gotten
physically
more
as
help.
difficult.
But
And
would
as
it be said
demanding.
that it is now transferred to a more productive
work.
Yeah, but
work or
productive
not?
for who? Who gets the income? How is
Yes,
the income
that's a more
divided, etc.
nuanced question. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting query that you asked, in terms of how this socioeconomy play a role in, let's say, even adoption of these solar irrigation pumps. So what we see here in India is that wherever, you have small farmers, let's say, or having a small land holding. So as per the scheme, PM Kusum scheme, 40% of the cost has to be shared by farmer. And he can avail loan of, let's say, about 30% of the cost, which of course he has to pay back in the form of EMIs. So what we see is that large farmers are, kind of still able to take the loan, or let's put it this way, that banks prefer giving loan to large farmers, rather than, me saying that the small farmers are not able to get it. So, so this is the, kind of a trend that we observe. And the other is that some areas in Gujarat, especially the southern side of Gujarat, so there the administration, they have even taken care of that 40% component, which farmer has to pay. And the idea is that they pay the upfront cost, they also pay his loan amount, or let's say his 30% share, remaining 30% share, and the farmer has to return in the EMI. So wherever such models are there, we see that uptake, especially in terms of small farmers adopting such systems, is higher. And wherever the banks have given loan, it is mostly to the, let's say, the medium and the large farms. So this is quite kind of a reflection that we have observed.
So also in the case of the pilots that we plan to do in Bihar and Jharkhand, in Bihar, I mentioned we are going to work with Jivika or the Bihar Rural Livelihood Program, and they have their entry point activity for livelihood is creation of self-help groups, which are women-led. And what we want to pilot is whether these self-help group women can become solar irrigation entrepreneurs. We want to encourage them to basically offer irrigation as a service to both male and female farmers. So the beneficiaries may not all be male or female, but the entrepreneurs, we want to encourage the women SHGs to do. And in the case of Jharkhand, of course, our focus is on tribal farmers who are anyway marginalized. But within tribal communities, it's not like the mainland communities. Women do play a much more active role. And there we find, even without any other specific design instrument, we find that there are many more women-headed households and women-headed farmers or women farmers than we find in mainland areas. So that's one thing that we want to build into the design.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
My name is Mastik Hazarik. I am from DWRI India. Just one question to Shilp again. I mean, because you have mentioned about Jivika, and this Jivika is really, they have huge network across the states. So will they going to support you in market linkages also? Because there is another area, you know, if you have to talk about the sustainability of the system, that market linkages need to be there.
So what we are actually going to do is we are working in the case of Bihar, we'll be working not only with Jivika, but also with AKRSP and CINI, right? So CINI's model, and we have CINI colleagues here, so maybe they will talk about this better, is about a production cluster or a production hub. So where solar or irrigation is one of the inputs, but it is combined with other inputs, which include market linkage, right? So our partnership with Jivika, or basically the cluster level federations of Jivika, will be, because these cluster level federations have been given money by the state government to give out as loans, and they basically for productive purposes, right? And they will give a loan to these SHGs to become solar irrigation entrepreneurs. There will be part subsidy, part will be coming from these as loan from these cluster level federations. But the other interventions in this hub of 25-30 villages will be accompanying the irrigation. So it will not be just an irrigation intervention, but it will be a production hub or production cluster. Ayan, if you want to add anything else.
So yes, just to add to what Shilp said, I mean, broadly, I mean, what we see solar pump as one of the critical enablers in the overall value chain in agriculture. So solar pump with precision farming is something which actually adds up to doubling or almost increasing the farmer's income by 4x. But with that, what we are seeing is there are other actors also which has to play from the pre-production till the post-harvest, which actually enables the overall ecosystem. And thus there are marketing which are established at the farm gate. So other enablers like even establishment of a seed shop in the local ecosystem really triggers more farmers adapting high value agriculture. And just to give an example, then other thing is access to credit. Easy access to credit is another thing. Then basically facilitating traders at the doorstep, because there has to be a certain amount of volume. I mean, what we are seeing is that approximately 5 to 10 metric ton of production per week actually triggers market in these small villages. So these are few of the, I mean, aspects that we consider beyond solar irrigation system that actually triggers the production process.
Just to add, this is part of a larger program that CINI leads. It's called Uprety Kisan program. So irrigation is one of the inputs, but it has a larger ecosystem.
Are there any other questions?
One for the Nitin. You spoke about a tool which would consider the groundwater availability. Just like to get an understanding of what data are you feeding into this, whether it's CGWP, because they're little experienced in case of their framework of getting the data.
See, you're right, there is CGWB data on groundwater development and also the groundwater levels. So there are two things that we have used. What I would like to say about the methodology here is, I think it is not about the, let's say the estimates that they do. It is not about that. It is about the methodology which is used is not that, let's say, reliable when we consider the hard rock areas. And and this is not like where India is struggling. I mean, this is world over, scientists are struggling to find out what exactly is the methodology we use for the hard rock areas. And the reason being that there is a lot of these subsurface flow, the base flow, what we say, happens even during monsoon. So, and then because of, the lot of these, unweathered rock, I mean, you only have this 50-60 feet of weathered, layers where the water can go, and then there is a unweathered layer. So it prefers space, to store or to, let's say, that water is not there. So there are, these larger level, issues. Having said that, the methodology, especially for alluvial regions, you look at Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, and all that, northwest and eastern parts. I think they are reliable estimates. And one thing which CGWB has done of late is now they will be coming out with these estimations every year. So initially it was only, with a gap of 4 years. Then they reduce it to 2 years. Now it will be done annually. So your, what you exactly asked, it will be taken care, by that aspect. Because on a, every year you will be having those estimates to work with.
Any other questions?
There's no question online.
No, that's already taken. Yeah, that's it. Yes.
I had a question, Irina, STC Bangladesh. I'm curious if in any of the research that's been done, since we've seen a lot of migration away from agriculture work due to sometimes irrigation or challenges in that field, if the use of SIPs or the scaling of it has helped retention of agriculture in certain areas, or that supported maybe, families staying together, since frequently it's the men who migrate and the women who end up staying behind, and if that has any impact on the equity of it.
Would anybody like to take that?
Well, I don't think we have enough evidence, but it's definitely something to look at. Maybe even at 300,000 solar pumps, the scale is still very small. 300,000 out of 30 million. So whether we can, if we find any impact on migration, whether we can really attribute it to solar, it's doubtful. But if there are clusters where solar irrigation adoption is happening on scale, then I think this is definitely something that needs to be looked at. But I haven't seen any study.
I will just add, theoretically, what you're asking might happen. Suppose if farmers, if something is on its scale, farmers find it economically attractive, to become a producer of electricity and supply and earn money rather than doing agriculture. But then there are a lot of trade-offs. How much they are earning, what exactly is that percentage of their annual earning. So theoretically, it can happen. But I think in my presentation, I mentioned it. We need to generate a lot of these field evidences. Otherwise, there are many possibilities which may happen.
It's okay.
Rahman has raised.
Okay.
Dr. Rahman, yes, you can speak.
Yes, just I'd like to mention one thing. The question that has been asked, just to know whether these women are migrating from rural areas to other places due to not have electricity there or something like that. If it is the question, I would say we have found many cases, not only in my study, but other study, introducing this solar panel particularly in the detached area people are now enjoying a lot with that solar panel, particularly in the Chor area. I mean detached land area. They are using this solar panel because it is now in subsidized. So a lot of uses we can see where main grid electricity are not there. So to some extent, women are getting some sort of scope to work even in the night time, and some cases they are doing some agricultural activity there with this solar energy. So I would say this solar energy is helping not to have enough migration, particularly in the rural areas or detached area. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Lusa. It's almost going to wrap up this session. Yes, I'd like to thank you all the speakers and Rapporteur Manikanta. Oh, yes, and Custodian Labisha and all the participants for the interactive participation. And I'll with big round of applause. For your excellent job. And at last, I wrap up this with regarding the solar irrigation pumps to the farmers' land. Still, we need, I think, for this out the presentation, I found that we still need a lot of further studies from different dimensions. And to address this, the appropriate government policies should be in place as well. So now let's thank all the speakers and let's close this session. Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Thank you.